Rangers have been in a weird spot across the many editions of D&D, but in Baldur's Gate 3 we can have a lot of fun getting spicy with all the multi-class options presented to us. In this video today, we're going to go over my Ranger Knight build, how you can turn your Ranger into a dual-wielding, damage-dealing, tanky juggernaut, able to take down all manner of enemies while also providing lots of support to the party. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos so you can decide if it's the right one for you. So with that being said, this video will focus on starting as a Ranger Hunter and multi-classing with War Cleric, or Cleric with the War domain. Since this will grant us heavy armor, we'll focus on that to help increase our survivability, use dual wielding because I just want to showcase that in this video, but you're totally fine going with like two-handed weapons with even more damage if you so wish. From there, it's about maximizing the benefits of the Hunter's abilities and layering in the amazing support and damage spells of War Cleric, especially the War Priest Channel Divinity charges, which will allow us to just spam attacks on a hard target. And that's really the gist of this entire video. So if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down and get back to making your holy warrior of nature. But before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, and or subscribe. Each one of those things does help me out in a huge way. I currently have 89% unsubscribed viewership on the channel, and that's a metric I'm trying to change this year, so every little bit helps. You can jump ahead to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. And if you need help with any other subject in Baldur's Gate 3, check out my playlist linked below and at the end of the video. Let's get started here on our ultimate Ranger Knight build for Baldur's Gate 3. Moving into character creation, let's talk about your race. Now you can go with whatever you want and nothing's really going to have much of a difference. I personally love going with the Wood Elf because it's just, I'm a Ranger. But you can also go with a Drow if you so wish. The really big difference between the two is that all elves, well this is not a difference, this is a similarity. All elves get innate what's it called? Skill proficiency towards perception, which is actually very nice. You'll use perception a lot in this game, so it's nice to have. But why I like choosing a Wood Elf is that a Wood Elf will get access to Fleet of Foot, which increases your movement. There's tons of ways to increase your movement in the game, but this allows you to always have 5 feet more than anyone else. You can even go with a Half Elf, which is going to get the benefit of some of those things, but not all of them. You'll lose the perception emphasis, but you'll get all the other things like Fey Ancestry, which is going to give you an advantage on saving throws against being charmed, which is nice. You'll deal with that quite a bit in this game. So I like all three of the elf options. They're quite lovely. Halflings are always a really fun one just because you get lucky, which is lovely here. You get a roll, when you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die and must choose a new one. And in this case too, I would go with the Strongheart because then they get an advantage on saving throws against poison to resistance on saving throws on a resistance to poison is what I meant. Also, another nice one is the Dwegar. Now, Dwegar are pretty fun here because they get their resilience to saving throws against illusions and against being charmed or paralyzed, which is lovely. They get their superior dark vision, and they also have their dwarven resilience, so advantage on saving throws against poison and have resistance to poison damage innately. That'll stack with your abilities as a ranger. They have Natural Explorer, so rather than, you can just skip out on Wasteland Wanderer since you're already going to have that as a Dwegar and just get Wasteland Wanderer Fire and Wasteland Wanderer Cold, which is pretty cool. Another thing too about the Dwegar is that they will eventually, and I'm pronouncing that because that's the way the game pronounces it, and people get weird about that, but they also get access to Enlarge and Invisibility at levels 3 and 5, which are really nice. That's another thing too about the Drow. They'll get access to some additional cantrips like Dancing Light, Fairy Fire, and Darkness at 1, 3, and 5 respectively. So all those are really nice. We are going with a more of a melee-centric character, so a Half-Orc is good for its savage attacks here to help out with crit damage and relentless endurance so they can stay up longer. Human's always nice for increased carry capacity. You have pretty much every single option at your disposal. Now for your starting class, you can go with Ranger or Cleric. It won't matter because we're going to choose the opposite at level 2 anyway. So go with Ranger if you want, or go with Cleric. I'm just going to choose Ranger in this way. Then for our Natural Explorer, you're going to have to decide if this character is kind of your skill monkey, as it were. Are you going to use your Ranger to pick locks? Then go with Urban Tracker, because this is going to give us Sleight of Hand. So we'll have a proficiency bonus whenever we try to pick locks or disarm traps. If you plan on having a rogue or a bard or anyone else who's going to be doing all that for you, and this is maybe a companion you're building this out on, or you're not your main character, whatever it is, then just go with Wasteland Wanderer. If you didn't go with Dwarf, go with Poison. Poison's very prevalent in the game through traps and a whole bunch of other ways, so getting a resistance against it is going to be very nice. And if you chose Dwarf, then go with Fire, because fire damage is very common in this game too. You'll be able to choose another one of these down the road, and I would just go with whichever one you didn't choose. And if you, again, chose Dwarf, then just go with Cold. Your last thing here is Favored Enemy. Now, I know this video is called Ranger Knight, and it probably would make sense to choose Ranger Knight, but because we're choosing War Cleric as our multi-class, we will be given the best portion of the Ranger Knight passive feature, which is armor proficiency with heavy armor. So since we don't really need that here, we might as well get the benefit of something else. So I'm going to start with Bounty Hunter. You gain proficiency in investigation, which is very, very common to deal with in the game. And creatures you hit with Ensnaring Strike have disadvantage on their saving throw. And Ensnaring Strike is a really nice little early level spell that only gets better. As far as your backgrounds go, if we're min-maxing this, it would probably be something like Guild Artisan for Insight and Persuasion. But again, please always choose the background that makes the most sense for you, your character, and the roleplay you have in mind. Are you a Ranger Knight who kind of comes from being a soldier? Are you a Ranger Knight who at one point was an acolyte of the church? You just choose something that fits the roleplay you've created for your character in your own head. Now, of course, this is a custom origin. You can go with Dark Age if you so wish. It's entirely up to you. And when it comes to our ability rolls, I'm going to clear all this. We are not going to focus on dexterity. I've chosen not to make this a dexterity-focused character because I think that's very common for Ranger. And I think by going with dexterity, I miss out on a lot of the really fun strength one-handed weapons. So I'm focusing on strength in this build. And if you want, you can stick with two-handed weapons and still kind of copy everything as is. So we're going to bring this all the way up. Actually, I'm going to bring it here, and we're going to go that to 16. Our wisdom, we're going to have to bring all the way up to 15. I'm going to put the +1 point there. Because wisdoms are going to be our primary casting attribute for both cleric and ranger. It's important for us. We're going to keep intelligence all the way at 8. And if this is not the main character, I'm going to keep charisma at 8. If it isn't, we would increase this. But we're going to bring our dexterity up to 10, if not 12. Our constitution is going to go to 14. And this just depends here. Am I the main character? Okay, well then we're going to put charisma to 10. Am I not the main character? Then we'll do this. So just kind of make that decision based off of this is a companion you're building out or your main character and go accordingly. You don't want to have any penalties on your charisma checks. You're going to be making them through the entirety of the game. You might as well not have any issues there. And then outside of that, you know what? I'm going to switch this to, oof, this is going to mess everything up. It's fine. Yeah, that'll do, pig. We're going to switch this because I've chosen Wood Elf as my preferred choice. And then we're going to go through all these here. So Perception we already get out the gate because I've chosen a Wood Elf, which is great. And we're going to get Persuasion because we've chosen Guild Artisan as our background here, right? Which is lovely. So outside of that, though, Nature is a good one to actually go with because you'll be able to pass in those checks. If you want to go the stealthing route, you can, but we're focusing on heavy armor, so we're skipping that. Athletics is good for any kind of pushing if you want to do it. Animal handling you will use for conversations with animals in lieu of speak with animals. If you have speak with animals on, animal handling is not worth it. Don't make the mistake I did that I made with my ranger. I put all these points into fucking animal handling, and I never use it. So I skip out on that here. So we would do this. So if you have the extra proficiency skill, yeah, then put it into animal handling or whatever you want. But I'm just telling you, it's not necessary if you have Speak with Animals cast at the beginning of every single day. So this is what your character would look like right at character creation or on a respec. Let's jump now into how the future or progression of this entire multi-class would work. The progression for the Ranger Knight here, right at level 2, we're going to go ahead and press Add Class at the top and switch over to Cleric. And from here, we're going to have some fun. So cantrips wise, we're going to remove resistance. I'd go with Blade Ward. This is going to give us a resistance, or it's going to half the damage of bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing attacks, which is lovely. Use guidance if you don't already have a guidance caster. If you do, then just remove this and maybe choose, I don't know, Thaumaturgy. Doesn't really matter. And then Sacred Flame just gives you a nice little ranged evocation cantrip if you need it. You can use a bow and arrow, whatever you want, but it's there for you. Now for our domain, we're definitely going to go with the war domain as an alternative. If you want to be more of a casting cleric, you can go with Tempest domain and it will actually be very good. Tempest is super, super strong. So if you want to use a lot of spells in this build and not be as melee focused, Tempest domain is a really awesome alternative that does a lot of damage. For war domain though, we're going to stick here. For the deity, choose whatever you wish. I'm just choosing Miliki, whatever her name is, because she's the goddess of rangers. So just a flavorful decision here. Now for our level 1 spells, I'd get something like Bless. Now, unlike the Ranger, you can swap these out at will, so just don't worry about this too much in the character in the actual level up screen. Swap in whatever makes the most sense for you. You can go with something like Sanctuary, which is really good to help protect any soft targets in your party, like a wizard or a sorcerer, while you're kind of in the front line. They get maybe backcapped by backcap. What game is this? If they're getting attacked by something that just jumps in the back line, whatever it is. Commando's always really nice. Bane is really cool to have. A ranged heal with Healing Word is great. Protection against good and evil is always, or evil and good, because this helps with aberrations, celestials, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead. Those latter 3 that you'll be dealing with quite a bit in this game. Just keep in mind though that this, as well as Bless, are concentration spells and they will conflict with your ranger spells. So just make sure you're only having 1 concentration spell active at a time if you do. After that though, we'll accept this and we will go back into Ranger. The reason here is because essentially what we wanted to do with Cleric was get the War Priest turned on. And did I get the... haha, there it is, War Priest. So when you make an unarmed or weapon attack, you can spend a War Priest charge to make an additional attack as a bonus action. This is kind of a pseudo extra attack for you until your Ranger gets to level 5 for actual extra attack. And then at that point, you just have all the benefits of having extra attack and War Priest. Because basically what you're using is this, your Channel Divinity charges, which will replenish on short rest to get more damage onto your target. You'll just basically use those War Priest charges. Now, while you can stay into Cleric and then maybe go back into Ranger, I like going back here into Ranger first, because we do want to get our fighting style online ASAP. And we're going 2-weapon fighting for this video, but you can of course go with something like dueling if you're going with one-handed weapons, or if you want to just increase the damage of a sword and board style of situation, or defense if you want to just gain 1 additional armor class while wearing armor. If I was going 2-handed weapons, I'd go with this personally. So 2-weapon fighting in that, and then spells. Because we chose Bounty Hunter, we're going to go with Ensnaring Strike here. And then our other ability, probably go with, I mean, you can go with Hunter's Mark, just remember it is a concentration ability, but I would probably get something like Long Strider, because Long Strider doesn't show you here in this menu, but it is a ritual spell, meaning that you can cast it and it does not use a spell slot and it will last until long rest. So this will increase the movement speed of my entire party. I can just cast it 1 at a time and everyone's moving faster. Alternatively too, Speak with Animals is very good because this is a Larian game and Speak with Animals is always really strong in their games. So make sure you do get this online ASAP if you don't choose it at the very beginning of the game, because you do want to be able to talk to things. So from there, we're going to choose another level into Ranger because we want to get our subclass online, because Cleric subclass starts immediately. So maybe we'll just go here with Speak with Animals. And then we're going to go with Hunter. So you can go with Beastmaster if you want to use a beast. Personally, I find that Beastmaster is really rough to multi-class into if you want your beast to do a lot of damage. If you want your beast to be a supplemental thing that you use to help out the party or deliver status effects, then it's perfect. But if you want that beast to actually do some oomph, it needs its level 11 counterpart. Hunter, though, is where we're going because we're going to choose Hunter's Prey, and we have 3 options. So if you want to do more damage to kind of area effect or just more than 1 creature at a time, Horde Breaker and all of its counterparts that are focused on AoE style stuff is for you. Giant Killer is good, but I find that it's kind of a little lackluster here. So if a large or bigger creature attacks you, you can use a reaction to make a melee attack. This is great, but if you are a medium-sized character, right? If you're running around as a elf or a human or anything like that, this isn't going to be great. If you're playing a halfling or a dwarf, actually I think dwarfs are medium. If you're playing like a halfling or a gnome, those are anything bigger than you. Giant Killer is great. But we're just going to go with Colossus Slayer. It's applicable to pretty much damn near everything. Once per turn, your weapon attacks deal an extra 1d8 damage if the target is below its hit points max, which is going to be almost all the time, right? So it's a really nice ability to have. It's pretty spiffy here. And we're just going to bring this Ranger all the way on here to level 5. But let's talk about our feats now. So for feats, we want to focus firstly on dual wielder. The reason here is that yes, it's great to get the additional armor class, but we want this. You can use 2-weapon fighting even if your weapons aren't light. That is the biggest reason we want dual wielder. It's going to unlock the whole entire repertoire of one-handed weapons for us to really go to town on. Also, too, you can use 2 weapons fighting if the weapons are okay, never mind. I thought I was going to say something else, but it doesn't matter here. So dual wielder is the big focus here. After that, you can go with something like Savage Attacker to get more out of your melee damage if you so wish. I very much like Warcaster because this is going to give us an advantage on saving throws to maintain our concentration. You're going to have a lot of concentration abilities to take advantage of, so you might as well have this online so that you're doing as you can keep those concentration spells up for as long as possible. If you went with the Tempest Cleric though, Shocking Grasp is even more important here too because you can maximize the damage on your Shocking Grasp, and Shocking Grasp will do a ton of damage the higher you level up and more. Stuff like Mobile is always really nice. Movement speed increases in difficult terrain, doesn't slow you down when you dash. If you move after making a melee attack, you don't provoke opportunity attacks from your target, which is lovely. Lucky is always good to just kind of get these luck points, which are going to give you advantage on your next ability check. And you can use them on attack rolls, saving throws, or an enemy's attack roll to kind of get around stuff. If you want to really increase your tankiness, like if this were a character I was building, I'd probably go something like a dual wielder, and then very quickly Heavy Armor Master, because this is going to increase my strength by 1, which is lovely. And you can get the Hag's Hair in the first act to increase your strength by 1 as well, giving you a total of 18 strength if you take this feat. Incoming damage from non-magical attacks also decreases by 3 while you're wearing heavy armor. The nice thing here is the majority of heavy armor will reduce non-magical attacks by 1 or 2, if not 3. So this is going to just give you a ton of damage mitigation. It's the reason we're taking that heavy armor. Mage Slayer is nice if you're trying to break apart the concentration of any of the enemy mages, of course. So that's always a really cool choice that you can go with. If you want to focus more on casting, Spell Sniper is good, of course, as well. If you are going with two-handed weapons, get Great Weapon Master, and probably pick up Polearm Master as well. It's nice here to have the opportunity attacks when a target comes within range, and also your bonus action to hit something with like the haft or the bottom of your glaive, halberd, quarterstaff, or spear. But those are your options to go with. Definitely want to start with dual wielder though in this case. Now that we've reached level 5 with our ranger, we're good. We've gotten our extra juicy, extra attack. That's what we really wanted. And this is going to unlock our level 2 spells. Spike Growth is very, very, very good. I really like it. You can, oh, okay, there we go. Spike Growth is good. I really like it. But even something as simple as, Lesser Restoration is nice to have. Protection from Poison can be nice to have. Having a Silence on Demand is lovely, but you already have access to that as a cleric. So don't feel like you have to do that. You can go with something like Hail of Thorns if you want. There's plenty of really good abilities, but I'm just going to go with Spike Growth. Now, from here, when I press accept, we can choose to go to level 6 on our ranger, or we can go back into cleric. Level 6 is going to give us favored enemy, and that's going to allow us to another favored enemy, so we can go with something like Mage Breaker here for proficiency in True Strike, or Keeper of the Veil for proficiency in Arcana and Evil and Good, Sanctified Stalker, proficiency in Religion. So if you want, you can go with that. But the nice thing here is it gives us another Natural Explorer, so we can get resistance to fire. So do what is going to make the most sense for you and the character you have in mind for the ranger. A 6-6 split is just fine. A 5-7 split is just fine. A 7-5 split is just fine. Whatever you want to go with. Personally, what I'm going to do here in this video is I'm going to go with a 5-7 split, because at level 7 for the cleric, we're going to get freedom of movement and stone skin as just always prepared, and it gives us just a little bit more to take advantage of. So again, do whatever you see fit. Let's go ahead and now swap over to cleric. So from here, we're just going to let this level up. We're going to get guided strikes. So you gain plus 10 bonus to your attack rolls. So now you're really going to be able to hit things. So we're coming at level 7, so we're probably midpoint of Act 2, roughly. Maybe even beginning of Act 2, depending on how you approached Act 1, if you went through the mountain pass and everything. So you have plenty of gameplay ahead of you, and you're going to start really spiking in power now. As we jump up here onto level 3, we're going to get prepare spells, get more of them. Warding Bond is actually quite good here because you are going to be in melee. So they gain resistance to all damage and a +1 bonus to their armor class and saving throws. Each time the ally takes damage, you take the same amount of damage. So each time the warded creature takes damage, the spellcaster takes the same amount of damage. So you are going to split this. So you can split this with another frontline character with you, so you both are beefed up, and you can split damage and mitigate damage across the both of you, which is really fun. Goes well with a Lae'zel or a Karlach, whatever you want to do. Of course, too, enhanceability is always really good, especially for conversations, and of course you can't miss something like hold person, always lovely. So I'm just going to kind of blitz through that part. We'll get level 4. We'll choose a new feat. I'm going to go with Heavy Armor Master, and another cantrip. Just go with whatever one we didn't choose earlier, you know what I mean? And then we just choose more spells. So we're just going to kind of level this up more and more into level 5, and that's going to give us Destroy Undead. So when you successfully turn an undead creature, it also takes 4 to 24 radiant damage. The big thing here, though, is now we get our level 3 spells, which is lovely. And most of the time we would choose different spells, but we get 2 of the best ones just activated for us. Spirit Guardians is going to be the spell you will probably use the most with this character, because you cast it and it is just a constant AoE damage of anything that comes in close contact with you or outside of it. It's why Warcaster works very well here, because we get a bonus to the concentration roll of this ability. It is very, very juicy. I really quite like it. So we're going to also have Crusader's Mantle too. This is a concentration ability, so you would use one over the other, and I would almost always opt for Spirit Guardians personally. For prepare spells, you can go with a little bit more support here. We can go with something like Mass Healing Word, kind of heal the whole entire party if we so wish. We do get Bestow Curse and Remove Curse. That was the big one I wanted to show off. And as far as just a nice general damage ability, you have Glyph of Warding. And this will be whatever type of glyph you want. It can be thunder, it can be lightning, it can be fire, it can be poison, it can be one that repulses things and shoots them backwards. It's a very good little ranged capability to have, and you can use this to push people towards you to attack them or push them away from you. It's a very, very fun spell. If you've not used it, I strongly encourage it. Do not use Inflict Wounds. Let's go ahead and press accept. And this is going to bring us up to the last level I can show off on this gameplay, but this is going to give us Channel Divinity War God's Blessing. It's why the biggest reason we wanted to get to 6 Cleric and not 5 Cleric. Endow a nearby ally with the glory of your god to grant them a +10 bonus attack to their attack roll. So that divine strike that you get, you can give to another character if you wish. So maybe you have another melee character that's up close and personal, you can use this to your advantage. So from this point though, we would jump into level 7 as Cleric and just get access to Freedom of Movement and Stone Skin as domain spells. Those are just always going to be active for us, so we can use them for extra defensive capabilities or Freedom of Movement to help us out in to reduce any kind of CC, keep people on their toes, quite literally. Now, again, too, just to kind of recap, you can also go level 7 Ranger if you want to get the defensive tactics of the Hunter. It's entirely up to you. It's your decision and how you want to build out your Ranger Knight. As far as equipment goes for our Ranger Knight, let's take a look at some weapon options. So you pretty much have the pick of whatever weapons you want to take advantage of. There's a really good one that you get at the mountain pass that you can just jump into very, very early in the game. And really, there's tons of other ones. There's the Blood of Lathander. That is another one that you can get right in Act 1. That is an amazing mace that can last you throughout the entirety of the game if you so wish. Another really strong one in Act 1 here is the Shattered Flail. It doesn't look as cool. In fact, it looks cooler in the art. But the nice thing about this is that it is a weapon enchantment +2, which is cool. And hitting enemies with this weapon heals the wielder for 1 to 6 hit points. It does have the downturn here, of course, right, of being... but they can go bad if they don't continue hitting an enemy each turn. So if you miss out on hitting an enemy, it can have some negative effects. Sword of Life Stealing is very early on in the game too, right at the beginning of Act 2. On a critical hit, the target takes an extra 10 necrotic damage as long as it isn't a construct or an undead. You also gain 10 temp hit points. Weapon enchantment +2. Keep in mind though, anything you see as finesse doesn't mean you have to use dexterity. It will scale with your dexterity if it's over your strength. So feel free to use whatever you see fit. But other ones too, here are Blackguard Sword here that can help, but this one is mainly more for paladins because of the Dazing Smite. It's just one I wanted to show off. Falar Eluve is really nice because it gives us the Falar Eluve melody. You'll get this when you go into the Underdark, which can either basically grant Bless to everyone or Shriek. So the Sing here is plus 1d4 bonus to attack rolls in Charisma, Wisdom, and Intelligence saving throws, or Shriek, they get a penalty. So it's basically Bless or Bane, depending on if you want to affect your enemies or affect your bros. It is a longsword. This one is finesse. I have one that's not finesse, so I don't know what the real one is. Another good one here is the Flail of the Ages, which you'll get in Act 3, Elements of the Epoch. Depending on what kind of damage this weapon does, it also inflicts an acid condition, chill condition, or burning condition. Weapon enchantment 1, and here's the cool thing about this. Elemental Age here. Give the Flail of Elemental Ages a +1 bonus to attack rolls and an additional 1d4 of the corresponding acid, cold, or fire damage to its strikes. So a lovely little thing that you can do with that. A lot of really cool stuff. And in general, mace weapons are pretty cool because they have tenacity a lot of the time, depending on what it is. So when you miss an attack, you still deal 3 bludgeoning damage anyway. So those are some fun options here. The ones that I currently have equipped are the Sword of the Emperor. This weapon deals an additional 1d4 damage against shapeshifters or polymorph creatures, which you'll deal with a lot in Act 3. But the wielder has a +2 bonus to saving throws against spells. That's the one thing I like about it from a defensive capability. And then Belm, which you probably remember from Baldur's Gate, is great because it does have perfectly balanced, a nice little ability, but I really like it here for the whirlwind attack. Strike out on all nearby foes, making separate attack rolls against each target. There's a level 11 hunter ability that is this ability, but this is nice to just kind of have on an actual weapon. Now, as far as armor and other gear goes, let's take a look at what our options are. There is a really, probably the best single heavy armor in the game called the Armor of Persistence. It's 16,000 and you get it in Act 3. It does magical plate. All incoming damage is reduced by 2. You gain resistance and blade ward, which is just active for you. Those 2 cantrips are just active. It's lovely. It is heavy armor and it has 20 AC. It's probably the best single heavy armor piece that you can get in the game. Outside of that, though, we have the Blackguard's plate you'll get in Act 3 as well. All incoming damage reduced by 1. Advantage on wisdom saving throws, which is nice. So any kind of like hold person or charm, you get an advantage on it. I think you already do as a ranger, though. But Reaper's Embrace here, you're going to get at the end of Act 2. All incoming damage is reduced by 2. Reaper's Rigidity, when activated, you can't be moved against your will by any spell or action, but have disadvantage on dex saving throws. And you also get Howl of the Dead, which is a cool little ability that numbs things around you. Movement speed halved. The spellcaster has advantage on attack rolls against the affected entity. And it's a bonus action too, and it replenishes on a short rest. So it's very nice. It has a high AC. It's really cool. You can get the Adamantine Dwarven Scale Mail, the heavy armor version of this one, and it's got a little bit more AC. I think it's 17 AC instead, and all incoming damage is reduced by 2, and they're left reeling for 3 turns. The nicest thing though about the Adamantine armor in general though is attackers can't land crit strikes on the wearer, which is lovely. I already showed off Blackguard, but some other things here too are your cloak. I have Cloak of Elemental Absorption on. This one's really lovely. So absorb elemental damage once per short rest. Take half damage from the next elemental attack targeting you and deal an additional 1d6 of that element type on your next attack. It's just a really nice way to mitigate any kind of elemental damage. A nice just basic one though is Cloak of Protection. +1 AC, +1 saving throw. You get this pretty early in the game, and it's probably one of the ones you'll use for the majority of the game. As far as gloves go, we've got the Martial Exertion gloves, which I really like. Basically, the way these work is that you're going to take some damage, 6 to 36 piercing damage. You'll only get these in Act 3, so 36 piercing isn't as scary. But you'll gain an additional attack per turn and do double your movement speed. So I really like that here. Legacy of the Masters is lovely. Gain a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls with weapons and a strength saving throw +1 as well. Also in Act 3. But pretty much just use any decent gloves in the moment. I mean, gloves are good but I think by and large with Ranger and Cleric here, you're not going to find any that are going to completely break or make the class. There is the one that gives you Arcane Acuity for any time you do a condition, but it is what it is. As far as other things, though, we have our Blackguard Greaves. These are nice because they just give you Long Strider. You can also use the Boots of Persistence, which match the Armor of Persistence we talked about. You gain freedom of movement and Long Strider just by wearing them, and you get a Dex saving throw +1. A very nice set of boots all the way around. But some earlier options you can go with here are Boots of Aid and Comfort. When the wearer heals a target, it gains an additional 3 temp hit points. So it's just a nice way to add additional healing to anyone you heal. Boots of Striding. The reason that you are gonna like this is that you'll be using concentration spells. So when you cast a concentration spell, you gain 1 momentum. It means it increases your movement. And when you are concentrating, you can't get knocked prone or be moved against your will. It's just a very nice early set of boots that are going to be pretty advantageous to something you're already doing, which is lots of concentration. There's also 2 disintegrating night walkers. Can't be enwebbed, entangled, or ensnared, and can't slip on grease or ice. And you also get Misty Step. It's a lovely, lovely set of boots as well. As far as our jewelry goes, we have the Whispering Promise. So when you heal a creature, it gains 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws. So basically it blesses them. Also, Amulet of Restoration, which can give you Healing Word, which is a ranged heal as we've seen, or Mass Healing Word, which is a ranged whole party heal. Well, not whole party. Here's what it does. It'll pretty much affect anyone in 60 feet and up to 6 allies. It's a really great little ranged heal that you can just have on demand because it's on your amulet. Another really good one here though is Amulet of the Harpers. Advantage on wisdom saving throws, but shield. That's the big one that we get here that I really like. Since you can't cast shield otherwise, when you're about to be hit by an enemy, increase your armor class by 5 and you take no damage from a magic missile. This is a reaction, right? So when something actually hits you, this would trigger. And our other ability here is Killer's Sweetheart. When you kill a creature, your next attack roll will be a critical hit. Once spent, this effect refreshes after a long rest. So it becomes one of these. It's called Executioner right here. So it will, you have the choice to let this go off or not. It's not just going to go off all willy-nilly. So you have that as an option. I do really like it. And then lastly, as far as some helmets go, there are a lot of pretty decent ones in the game. You can even use a lot of the barbarian ones to get a lot of really good benefit. Flayed Helldusk Skull, Helldusk Helmet, you're going to get at the beginning of Act 2. Magical Durability, the wielder has a +2 bonus to saving throws against spells and Constitution saving throws +1. Remember, concentration is a Constitution saving throw, so you might as well get the advantage of it. It's a very nice situation got going on here. Another good one, though, is the helmet that you get at the end of Act 1, the Grim Skull helmet, which is going to give you some defensive capabilities and make it so you can't get hit with crit strikes. But those are a lot of your equipment options here that for your Ranger Knight. Let's show off some combat now. Jumping into combat, let's show off some fun stuff. Starting, of course, with even the kind of support capabilities that this class has. So with War God's Blessing, I can see here that Karlach needs a 16 to hit and I rolled a 14, even after she used Reckless Attack. So I can use one of my Channel Divinity. It's going to, of course, cost currency against me, and I can allow her to re-roll, or at least get a +10 bonus, not re-roll, sorry, not re-roll at all. Grant a nearby ally a +10 bonus to their attack roll. I can see that she just needs 2 more, so this is going to go through. But I can see, too, if she had rolled like a 3, my War God's Blessing would not help her. So it's a really nice capability to have to help push through that attack like that. So really nice capability with this kind of combo here is that you can really help support things even without actually being active by using these reactions with the Ranger Knight. Launching into combat in this very crowded alleyway, let's show off some fun stuff we can do with this Ranger Knight. So we have a lot of spells at our disposal. And probably before this combat, I should have used Warding Bond to mitigate a lot of the damage on myself and Karlach. We could have split it between the two of us, but I'm not smart. This would have given a +1 to our AC and saving throws, of course, and they gain resistance to all damage, which is lovely. It halves that damage. It's a really nice thing to be able to use up close and personal. I can use Ensnaring Strike, because remember, we are a bounty hunter, we can have some advantages there, but the big thing I want to showcase is our Spirit Guardian spell. So Spirit Guardians can do either necrotic or radiant damage. In this example, we're going to do radiant damage. We're going to click that. So everything in this circle is going to take this damage right now. And the nice thing is that if they move out of it and come back into it, they're going to take the damage. If we move into their radius with our circle, they're going to take damage. It just does a lot of damage, and we're already up close and personal. The downside is it is a concentration spell, so we have to make sure we maintain concentration. Now, with us being a cleric multi-class, we get access to level 4 spell slots, so we can actually buff the damage of this. I think at max level for this multi-class, we'd have one more spell slot into level 2. But the ranger doesn't get level 3 spell slots until level 9, and they don't even get this spell, so it's fun. Let's go ahead and do this. So now we have spread some radiant damage herpes all over this piece. And we have some fun things we can do still because I use a potion of haste. We still have our action and our bonus action. Remember now, we have our War Priest extra attack charge. You can use this to do an extra attack as a bonus action. So let's have some fun. I'm going to use Whirlwind Attack just to kind of do some AoE damage. And we'll just let this go through and let it do its things. There we go. Oh, of course I think it would go detonating in the middle of the video. Why wouldn't it? Now, what we want to take a look at is we are dual wielding. See this button right here? Toggle it. Because if it is set to on, it will automatically use your main hand attack and your offhand attack. We're going to remove that. And you can see right here, it's going to say main hand attack, extra attack, bonus action, War Priest charge. So, do that. It's going to use our War Priest charge, but we still have an extra attack because we attacked with our main hand, and it's going to allow us to just kind of bring this together and do another main hand attack. So we get all of these attacks coming out of this character. And of course, if I'm using two-handed weapons, I have even more to take advantage of here in this instance. Good lord, that thing is just going to town. But you know what? I could have used hold person in this scenario. I could have healed people in this scenario. I could have done some Bane. I could have dropped a Glyph of Warding. I could have helped out with Magic Weapon or with Spike Growth. There's so many ways that you can use the Ranger Knight in a lot of really cool instances. You can buff up the entire party. You can help hold the line with your main front line characters. You can cast Sanctuary on someone to kind of help them not take a ton of damage. And you yourself have a ton of defensive capabilities. AC at 22 because of all of our perks that we have active right now. I mean, I didn't really talk about ranged weapons, but I mean, we're not really focusing on that in this build. So tons of stuff that you can do with the Ranger Knight. Hopefully this gives you an idea of a class that you can use that is different from the typical kind of melee hybrid multi-class. I think it's pretty common for people to go ahead and choose like, okay, a warlock paladin or something of the sort. This I feel is a little bit more unique, and it benefits from a ranger and heavy armor, which is again a unique thing to see, especially with Baldur's Gate 3 giving us the Ranger Knight favorite enemy that allows us to have heavy armor without having a multi-class and all sorts of fun things. But if you have any questions about this build, or you have some different ways that you'd like to approach it, please let it be known in the comment section below. I'm always down for fun and exciting ways to approach different builds and what have you. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.